She was the Texan beauty who walked into the whirlwind of rock and roll, glamour, and scandal. He was the wild frontman who made headlines as often as he made music. Together, Jerry Hall and Mick Jagger embodied an era. But what really happened behind those velvet curtains? What truths were hidden beneath the gloss of magazine covers and red carpet photos? At 68, Jerry Hall has finally opened up, and what she reveals about her decades-long relationship with Mick Jagger is nothing short of jaw-dropping. Viewers are urged to stay until the end, because what she discloses changes not only how we see the rock legend but how we understand the personal cost of fame, betrayal, and resilience. This isn't just a story about a celebrity romance gone wrong, it's a hauntingly raw tale of manipulation, heartbreak, and ultimately, redemption. Born in Gonzales, Texas, in 1956, Jerry Hall had dreams bigger than the southern skyline. By the time she was in her 20s, she had taken the fashion world by storm, appearing on the covers of Vogue, Cosmopolitan, and countless other magazines. Her statuesque frame, golden hair, and magnetic presence made her one of the most recognizable faces in modeling. But even more than her modeling fame, it was her relationship with Mick Jagger that would define the public perception of Jerry Hall for decades. Their relationship began in 1977, when Jerry was still in a relationship with Bryan Ferry of Roxy Music. It didn't take long for Jagger to sweep her off her feet with his charm, fame, and unpredictability. From the beginning, it was intense, electric, and intoxicating. But now, in her own words, Hall describes it as something else, deeply troubling. Mick had a way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room, she says, seated in a quiet garden setting during a 2025 interview with a British broadcaster. But what I didn't understand then was that he had that same power over everyone else too. He made me feel special, and that's how he controlled me. For years, the world saw them as rock royalty, with their jet-set lifestyle, lavish homes in Mustique and London, and glamorous children. But behind the scenes, Jerry was struggling. In the interview, she reveals that she felt gaslight and psychologically cornered by Jagger's behavior. He was with so many other women. Some I knew, others I found out about later. But it wasn't just the affairs that hurt. It was the lies, the constant rewriting of truth. You start to doubt your own perception of reality. She details how, over time, she felt increasingly isolated. While Mick Jagger was touring and partying, Jerry was often left alone to care for their children. Though they were ceremoniously married in a Hindu-style ceremony in Bali in 1990, the legality of the union was later contested and declared invalid during their split in 1999. That split, as Jerry now shares, was the culmination of decades of mistrust and emotional instability. I stayed longer than I should have, she admits, because I thought love could change him. And because I didn't want to break our family. It wasn't just the personal betrayal that broke her spirit, it was the public humiliation. Tabloids feasted on Mick's infidelities, many of which involved famous women. At one point, Jagger fathered a child with Brazilian model Luciana Jimenez Morad while still with Hall, a moment she now describes as soul-crushing. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was public annihilation. I had to walk through the fire and pretend I was fine, while dying inside. What's more shocking is her revelation about the control Jagger exerted on her financial independence and emotional stability. She claimed she had to ask for money to buy basic things, even though she had once been among the highest-paid models in the world. When you lose your sense of self, you stop seeing the imbalance. That's the scariest part. You begin to normalize the abnormal. The emotional weight of those years, she says, led to a breakdown in the late 90s. She sought therapy, leaned on her sister, actress Cindy Hall, and began to rediscover herself through art and acting. She would later appear in theater productions and even dabble in painting. The hardest part wasn't leaving him, she adds. It was reintroducing myself to myself. I had to remember who Jerry was before she became Mrs. Jagger. In the years following their split, Jerry rebuilt her life. She focused on raising her children, including model and actress Georgia May Jagger and musician James Jagger. She embraced a quieter lifestyle, distancing herself from the paparazzi lens that had long followed her every move. Then came the unexpected chapter of her marriage to media mogul Rupert Murdoch in 2016. The union raised eyebrows globally, not least because of the vast difference in their public personas. While some speculated it was a power move, Jerry described it as a relationship of stability and peace. However, that marriage too ended in 2022, and Jerry once again found herself in the headlines. But this time, the narrative was different. She was no longer the woman defined by her relationships. She was the woman who had survived them. In her newly released memoir titled The Other Side of Glamour, which debuted in 2025, Jerry takes readers deep into the emotional corridors of her past. From her childhood in Texas to the pinnacle of fashion stardom and her stormy romance with Jagger, the book is a gripping read. One chapter, titled The Velvet Cage, offers a piercing look into the double life she led with Jagger. People assumed I had it all, she writes. But the reality was, I had a front row seat to emotional warfare. The book doesn't just accuse, it reflects. Jerry makes a point not to demonize Mick Jagger but to portray him as a complicated man shaped by his own traumas and excesses. He was brilliant, magnetic, but emotionally unreachable. Loving him was like loving a storm, you can't contain it. As Jerry promotes the memoir, she has been met with both praise and pushback. Some critics suggest she's cashing in on her past. But supporters argue that her story is necessary, especially in an age where emotional abuse and gaslighting are being discussed more openly than ever before. In an emotional appearance on a BBC special titled Women Who Survived the Spotlight, Jerry sat beside other public figures who had endured turbulent relationships with powerful men. She spoke about how it took her nearly 2 decades to fully process the psychological impact of her time with Jagger. When I first started talking about it, people would say, "But you were with Mick Jagger," as if that excused everything. But emotional pain doesn't care about status. It just exists. Jerry now works with organizations focused on women's emotional health and has become an advocate for survivors of domestic emotional abuse. She says telling her story wasn't about revenge but about release. "I didn't want to die with this silence inside me," she said. "Because if my story helps even one woman walk away from a toxic relationship, then it was worth it." Even now, when asked if she ever hears from Jagger, she offers a soft smile and a vague reply. "We share children. That bond remains." But the romantic chapter? That ended long ago. Yet she admits that writing the memoir stirred emotions she thought she had buried. She revisited old letters, photos, and journal entries. "Some nights I cried. Other nights I laughed. But mostly I healed." What Jerry Hall reveals about her life with Mick Jagger isn't just scandalous. It's human. It's messy. It's real. And in that honesty, we find a woman who once lost herself in the shadows of a rock icon but found her light again by walking through her truth.